The tension in the courtroom could be sliced with a knife. Reporters sat on the edge of their seats, pens hovering above notepads, waiting for the first word. Then the doors creaked open, and a hush swept the room. In stepped Agent Monroe, the lead FBI investigator who had overseen the raid on Sean Diddy Combs' Beverly Hills mansion. He wasn't a celebrity or showman, but as he approached the witness stand, every person in that courtroom leaned forward. This wasn't rumor or theory, this was federal truth. Agent Monroe, the prosecutor began, voice steady but weighted, please describe what you found in the hidden vault. For a moment, silence reigned. Then Monroe spoke, each word landing like a slow drumbeat. The vault was concealed behind a false wall in the lower level. Access required biometric clearance. Not even the House staff knew of its existence. A ripple of gasps swept through the room. Diddy sat stone-faced, hands folded so tightly his knuckles turned white. Monroe continued, his voice unwavering, we discovered it only after noticing inconsistencies in the architectural blueprints. It took our team 12 hours to breach the reinforced concrete barrier. The prosecutor leaned forward. What security measures protected this vault? Triple-layer encryption, motion sensors, and a self-destruct mechanism that would have wiped all digital evidence if triggered incorrectly, Monroe replied. This wasn't just hidden, it was fortress-level protected. The judge's eyebrows raised. Even he seemed stunned by the elaborate lengths taken to conceal whatever lay within those walls. The courtroom held its breath, knowing they were about to witness the unraveling of something far more sinister than anyone had imagined. Inside, we found an extensive archive, digital drives, classified folders, dozens of compartments labeled with initials and dates. But what stood out was the pattern, Monroe continued, his voice growing more serious with each revelation. What kind of pattern? The prosecutor pressed, though the tension in his voice suggested he already feared the answer. An entire section labeled assets. These weren't business records. They were leverage files, blackmail materials, personal secrets, audio and video footage. Some going back over 20 years. Monroe paused, letting the weight of 2 decades of manipulation sink in. The courtroom vibrated with shock. How long had this been happening? How many lives had been affected? Monroe pulled out a document, his hand steady despite the gravity of what he was revealing. We also discovered a private log, handwritten and detailed. It referenced individuals, famous names, lesser-known insiders, with notes like paid, compliant, neutralized, or waiting for the right time. This wasn't kept by someone protecting memories. It was kept by someone managing power. A woman in the gallery audibly gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Others shifted uncomfortably, perhaps wondering if their own names might appear in such a list. The organization was meticulous, Monroe added. Color-coded files, cross-referenced databases, even psychological profiles detailing each person's weaknesses, fears, and pressure points. It was systematic manipulation on an industrial scale. The judge raised his gavel but hesitated, sensing the weight of what was unraveling. This was no longer just a criminal trial, it was the exposure of an entire shadow network built on secrets and silence. Among the encrypted drives, we discovered a folder titled Pending Insurance, Level Red, our highest classification for material containing evidence of criminal coercion or threats to safety, Monroe explained, his voice taking on a harder edge. The prosecutor's face paled. Level Red was FBI terminology that everyone in the courtroom now understood meant immediate danger to lives and national security. Monroe's voice hardened as he continued, inside that folder were dozens of files, video clips, wire transactions, hidden audio captures, even falsified documents designed to destroy individuals if released. This wasn't insurance. It was extortion and preparation for total warfare. He described a web of surveillance that stretched across multiple states and countries. Recording equipment was installed in recording studios, private homes, even hotel rooms that Mr. Combs' associates frequented. The metadata logs didn't just track careers and contracts, they tracked personal relationships, family vulnerabilities, and financial pressures. The courtroom was deadly silent now, absorbing the scope of the operation. We found evidence of payments to private investigators, hackers, and what can only be described as information brokers. Phone records, medical files, therapy session transcripts, all obtained through illegal means and stored like weapons in an arsenal. Monroe turned to face the jury directly. But the most chilling discovery was a list: celebrities, politicians, media figures, even law enforcement officials, categorized as owned, owed, watch, or target. Mr. Combs called it his Vault Index. It wasn't just a record of his crimes, it was a roadmap for controlling an entire industry, and potentially much more. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud, poisoning everything they thought they knew about power, fame, and justice. Monroe turned to a new page in his file, his movements deliberate and heavy with significance. But then we discovered something that changed everything: a document labeled Icarus, containing a single 27-minute video. The courtroom leaned forward as one. Even Diddy's defense attorneys stopped their frantic note-taking. "A confession," Monroe said, the word dropping like a stone into still water. The silence was deafening. No one moved, no one breathed, no one dared break the spell of that revelation. The video was filmed in a private recording booth within the vault itself. Mr. Combs sits alone, speaks directly to the camera, and says, "You think I don't know the game? I've made men rise and fall. They all think they're free, but I write the script. Every career, every downfall, every comeback, I orchestrate it all." Monroe's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, forcing everyone to strain to hear. He names dozens of people, specific names, explaining in detail how he manipulated, threatened, and recorded them. He describes bribes, intimidation tactics, even orchestrated public scandals designed to destroy those who opposed him. The agent paused, his eyes scanning the courtroom. But the final minute was what shook our entire agency to its core. He smiles, actually smiles, at the camera and says, "Even if they come for me, they won't believe it. They'll say I was just venting, just acting out. Maybe I am. Or maybe I'm the reason none of them ever speak up. Doesn't matter. The vault holds the truth, and no one's got the balls to open it." The prophecy had been fulfilled. The vault was open, and the truth was undeniable. Monroe looked directly at the jury, his 24 years of federal service evident in every line of his weathered face. "We opened it. And now the world has heard him say, in his own words, exactly who he really is. Not the mogul, not the entertainer, not the cultural icon, but the architect of fear, the puppet master who turned an entire industry into his personal kingdom of silence." The video had been authenticated by 3 independent digital forensics teams. Frame-by-frame analysis, voice pattern recognition, metadata verification, every possible angle had been examined. This wasn't just evidence. It was an unbreakable chain of truth. The prosecutor stood slowly, her voice carrying the weight of justice itself. "Your Honor, we have no further questions. The evidence has spoken. Mr. Combs has spoken. The vault has revealed its secrets, and those secrets have revealed the man." The defense team exchanged desperate glances, but their faces told the story. The damage was beyond repair. There was no spin, no reasonable doubt to cast, no witness who could unwrite what the world now knew. The judge surveyed the courtroom, his voice firm but heavy with the gravity of the moment. "This court has witnessed the systematic destruction of human dignity on a scale that defies comprehension. No amount of power, status, or fortune can shield any person from accountability when that power is built on the deliberate destruction of others." As Diddy was escorted out in handcuffs, no longer a mogul but a man finally unmasked. Reporters frantically typed on their phones, knowing they were witnessing history. The empire built on silence had finally spoken, and its words would echo through courtrooms, boardrooms, and headlines for generations to come. The vault stood open, and so did the truth. There was no closing it now.